Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology. I'm doing another tutorial for our series of tutorials on modeling in Rhino. This is for JD237, and the exercise we're working on is the Maurice ring. Picking up where we left off, we have the shank roughed in, we have the center roughed in, and now we want to bring in the cleats. When you're doing something, it gets more and more sophisticated as more and more elements have to fit together. Okay, so I am going to be using maquette modeling methods at this point, like we learned last semester, to just prove that things work before I do any serious modeling. So I'm going to extrude both sides, solid option. I don't care how big it is. Going to record history, mirror it over. I'm going to make sure the history works. It does. I'm going to non-uniform scale the width on this now to get something closer to what I want. I want the distance here and to the side to be visually similar, close to the same. Don't want to scale that direction, so that stays 1. I want to scale this direction. And once again, the goal is just to get something sort of similar in the width that I have in the height, extending beyond that center section. No change in Z. Take a look, see if I like that. Could be a little wider. There. Next thing I want to do is I want to see how closely this aligns with Maurice's image. So to do that, I'll go to our website and take a look at that image. And I can see that it is considerably wider on top than what Maurice has. So I am going to rotate these inward. I need a center point to rotate with some control. It's going to all be a guesstimation at this point anyway, so I'm not terribly picky, but it's easy enough to do to create a center for rotation between these two. To do that, I'm going to do a curve, line, mid-point snap, project, both sides. Grab the bottom and the top mid of this, and you can see I've created that. Mirror it over, fillet, and that will function as a center for rotation. Okay, so I am going to rotate this whole segment, the drawing, the center line, and the block, until I get something that looks more like Maurice's drawing. End snap, so I can grab that point for rotation. I'm going to take a look at that. That's not bad. But when I look at it from the top, it ends up being a very narrow strip. Narrower than what I think Maurice intended. So I'm going to back up a little bit. I think that is a pretty good estimation. So, obviously, this block and center line are no longer useful to me. I will mirror over the ones that have been rotated into position. So I have a a good set to work from, although I don't actually need that block anymore. I need to draw a line. The method I'm going to use, let's talk about strategy again. To prove this, to do a maquette of this, is to create a flow surface. And then flow my fluted surface along it. And to find out where that's going to be, I want it to run, parallel to, offset from where these intersect. So first thing I'm going to do is get that intersection up so I can look at it. Select these two pieces of geometry and hit intersect. And that will give me the curve I want. Looking at it, I can see this needs to be a little wider than I made it. So back to my top C-plane, non-uniform scale. Nothing in that direction. A little bit more in this direction. If anything, I want it a little bit too wide there to start with, just because it's going to give me some extra room to work. There. So I want to offset this curve and use it to create my flow surface. The challenge I'm going to have when I try and offset this is that it's not really going to go properly, because that's trying to do it per the front C-plane, although it obeyed. Every time I say that it's not going to work, it does. Okay, it shouldn't have worked. It's because it's perfectly planar. To work on this drawing and to get a proper offset, we should assign a C-plane to the top of this surface. Once again, that was assigned C-plane, set C-plane to object, and I clicked the top. Because once I do that, I have a center line that's oriented to this. I can be sure that my offsets of my drawing are going to be good. And I want this to come close to the top edge of that. That should be good. I want to draw a line straight across the top, and the best way to do that is to draw a straight line, tangent, tangent. So we're going to go line. It says start of line, but we're going to read in our options here. And if you come across, we have tangent. And then on tangent, we have several options. We want two curves. Pick a point on one curve, pick a point on another, and Rhino will draw a straight line that comes smoothly off of one and lands smoothly onto the other. It's a very useful tool. I don't need this curve anymore. And I can trim out the center of this curve and join these three pieces together. Okay, back to top C-plane. The next thing I want to do is I want to extrude this surface in a way that's parallel to the flow of this block. It goes this direction. Right now, if I try and extrude, it will not go parallel to this. It's going off in that direction. So to make it go the direction I want, I have two choices. One is to create a C-plane from its center line, front C-plane, while I do the extrusion, so the extrusion runs true. And then set C-plane, and then do my extrusion. Remember, extrusions should listen to the C-plane. Now, since this is a planar curve, it might not, which is why I'm going to show you both methods. Nope, it's still listening to its own axis. Okay, so back to top C-plane. It's good to show you how to do that, but it's not really going to help us. So the way to get it to extrude properly in this instance is to set the extrude direction. And click on, we don't want project. Click on let's pick the mid because it'll make more sense. Middle of this top surface, middle of this top surface. And that's running nice and true. Okay. Going to trim off the excess. Hide my maquette block. And there is my flow surface. I want to see if it's a single surface or a poly surface. Cannot explode single surfaces. It's a single surface. I am going to want to rebuild it because the control points are going to be very inconsistent. And it's a trimmed surface. So I need to first create a single surface from this and then rebuild it so that I have a consistent pattern, flow of points, density of points. To do that, we're going to do the same thing we've been doing with the rest of this project. Same series of steps. Duplicate border, delete the original surface. Explode these. Now they're going to become, they're going to become several parts. Yeah, 12 segments. I want them to only be 4. I'm going to click the short ones because I believe they're single segments. This is with the control key held down to deselect them. I was right. I'm going to hit join and it'll join the 10 curves into 2. That's fine. I'm going to do a bi-rail surface. That's fine. And now I'm going to rebuild this with a good consistent number of points. I discussed this in class. You know, it would be ideal to make this a little oversized so I can do more creative things with it. But at the end of the day, I believe I'm going to be doing a more complicated surfacing technique right in location. So this is really just for a maquette. So I don't care how many points I have. I really want to keep this the right shape. It has 64 right now. That's a lot. I'll bet I can go down to 45 and still hold it in a good shape. That looks good. I picked an odd number, as always, so I have a center line in both ways, in both directions. Okay, that's my target surface. Now I need to create my flat one, my base surface. This is backwards from what we normally do. Okay? To create that surface on the ground flat, I need to know its length and its width. Easiest way to do that is to extract isocurves, extract one at the midpoint here, hit T enter to toggle the direction, one at midpoint there, analyze this length, 23.545. Draw a line that same length from 0, 23.545. And since this is vertically oriented, I'm going to hold my shift key and pull out vertically. And then move it into position, mid to 0. And check this length. It's basically 5 millimeters, 4.968. So I will go ahead and just make it 5 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters each side.